If you've ever carried across state lines, you know that knot in your stomach the second you see a "Welcome to" sign. One state treats you like a responsible citizen, the next one might slap you with felony charges for the same pistol on your hip. Well, that just got shaken up. President Trump threw his weight behind nationwide reciprocity, and if it actually lands, one carry permit could work coast to coast. Think about that. Road trips without flipping through reciprocity maps. No guessing games every time you cross a border. This isn't some minor tweak. It's a straight-up challenge to the patchwork system that's tripped up permit holders for decades. And today, we're breaking down exactly what that means for anyone who carries daily. Here's the heart of it. The bill is called the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, House Resolution 38. On paper, it looks straightforward. If your state issued you a valid concealed carry permit, every other state that allows concealed carry would have to respect it. That means the same sidearm that's perfectly legal in Tennessee wouldn't suddenly turn you into a felon just for rolling into New Jersey. Right now, that's exactly the kind of nightmare people deal with. You can be the most law-abiding permit holder out there, background checked, fingerprinted, and trained, and still find yourself staring down charges in a state that refuses to honor your card. One of the most famous cases is Shenine Allen back in 2013. She was a mom from Pennsylvania with a perfectly valid permit. She crossed into New Jersey, got pulled over, told the officer she was carrying legally, and ended up arrested anyway. She fought her case for years before finally getting a pardon. That's the reality millions of people want to see fixed. This bill doesn't magically wipe away every restriction. Federal buildings, courthouses, schools, and private property owners can still say no guns allowed. And reciprocity won't override that. So if you walk into a courthouse with a no firearms sign, the rule still applies. Same thing if a business owner posts against carry on their property. But for everyday carriers, folks who just want to protect their families while traveling, this would be a game changer. Right now, we live under a patchwork system where one state honors your permit, another spits it out like it's worthless. Florida recognizes a stack of out-of-state permits. New Jersey, on the other hand, doesn't care who you are or what hoops you jumped through back home. Unless you've got reciprocity maps saved on your phone and check state websites before every road trip, you're gambling every time you cross a border. And here's another piece people don't always realize. The bill includes what's called a private right of action. That means if you're carrying legally under reciprocity and still get jammed up by authorities, you can sue. The burden shifts onto the government to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you weren't qualified. If they fail, not only do you walk free, but they're on the hook for your legal costs. That flips the pressure back on the state instead of leaving the individual gun owner ruined by attorney fees. In short, this proposal aims to make your carry permit travel the same way your driver's license does. When you drive across a state line, you don't need a new license. You're trusted to operate a vehicle nationwide. The backers of H.R. 38 want to put concealed carry permits on that same footing. This is where the rubber meets the road. Right now, every state runs its own concealed carry rules, and the differences can be night and day. In one state, your permit is honored without question. Drive a couple miles across a border, and suddenly the same pistol on your hip could mean felony charges. That's not an exaggeration. It's exactly what gun owners face every single day. Take the case of Shenine Allen back in 2013. She was a mom from Pennsylvania, had a perfectly valid concealed carry permit, and thought she was doing the right thing. She drove into New Jersey, got pulled over for a traffic stop, and told the officer she was carrying legally. Instead of being sent on her way, she was arrested, charged with a felony, and dragged through the courts. Her life flipped upside down until she finally got a pardon. That's not a rare story. It's the reality when you live under a patchwork of state laws. Here's the problem. Reciprocity agreements change like the weather. A state can honor your permit today and drop you off the list tomorrow. Unless you're constantly checking reciprocity maps or combing through state websites before every road trip, you're rolling the dice with your freedom. It's a dangerous guessing game, and a mistake can cost you your gun rights, your money, and even your career. Look at Florida versus New Jersey. Florida honors dozens of out-of-state permits, making travel for gun owners relatively stress-free. But New Jersey? Doesn't matter what hoops you jumped through back home. Background checks, training, fingerprints, none of it counts once you cross their line. One state treats you like a trusted citizen. The other sees you as a criminal for carrying the exact same firearm under the exact same permit. That inconsistency doesn't just create headaches, it creates real danger. Picture this. You're a truck driver hauling loads across the country. You can legally defend yourself in Kentucky, but once you roll into Illinois or New York, you're suddenly stripped of that right. If something goes down on the road, your ability to protect yourself depends more on the zip code you're in than your training or your permit. That's insane when we're talking about a constitutional right. And then there's the enforcement side. Cops on the street are expected to keep up with 50 different sets of rules. A permit card might look different in every state. Some are laminated, some are paper, some come with holograms. An officer making a roadside stop doesn't have time to memorize all that. It slows things down, creates confusion, and adds tension to situations that are already risky. That's not fair to the gun owner, and it's not fair to law enforcement either. This patchwork doesn't just frustrate, it punishes responsible citizens. We're talking about the 21.5 million Americans who went through legal channels, passed background checks, and did everything the government asked of them to carry responsibly. Yet, every time they cross a border, they're treated like criminals in waiting. That's why this reciprocity bill has folks fired up. It promises to shut down the guessing game once and for all. Instead of juggling maps, apps, and state-by-state rules, you'd have one permit that works like your driver's license. Drive from Florida to Maine? You don't need to retest or reapply every time you cross a state line. The same principle should apply to concealed carry. That's the promise of H.R. 38. Consistency, clarity, and the freedom to exercise your rights without needing a law degree just to plan a road trip. So what does all this mean if you actually carry every day? Let's talk about the real-world side of this bill. First off, until reciprocity becomes law, and remember, it's still grinding its way through Congress, you've got to play by today's rules. That means research, planning, and sometimes making tough choices before you ever leave your driveway. If you're taking a road trip, pull up reciprocity maps on your phone and cross-check the states you'll be driving through. Websites update often, but not always fast enough, and one change could turn you from law-abiding to law-breaking overnight. I know truck drivers who plan their routes with firearms laws in mind. They'll actually adjust where they fuel up or rest just to avoid stopping in states with the harshest restrictions. Think about that. Your safety decisions on the road dictated by a patchwork of laws instead of your own training and judgment. That's not freedom. That's survival planning. Another key point. Keep your paperwork tight. If your state issues a plastic permit card, make sure it's valid, current, and not tucked away somewhere you can't reach. If you're ever stopped, the smoother you can present your credentials, the cleaner that stop goes. Officers don't want to play detective with out-of-state IDs they've never seen before. A simple, calm handoff can make all the difference. And let's be clear, reciprocity wouldn't erase carve-outs. Federal buildings, schools, and certain posted properties would still be off-limits. That means even under nationwide recognition, you've got to stay sharp. Walking into a courthouse with a pistol on your hip is still going to get you locked up, no matter what Congress says. The same goes for private businesses. If they post against carry, respect it, or you could be facing trespassing charges on top of everything else. Here's another angle. Travel with backups. I don't mean more guns, I mean more information. Print a reciprocity map, keep it in your glove box, and update it before every trip. Keep the phone numbers of your state's firearm association or a trusted attorney in your contacts. If something goes sideways, you'll thank yourself for having those resources ready. And finally, practice what you'd say in a traffic stop. It sounds simple, but nerves kick in fast when blue lights flash behind you. Keep it calm. Officer, I'm licensed to carry, and I have my permit with me. Then follow their lead. The less confusion there is, the less risk of things escalating. This bill might shift the legal burden, but on the street, Your words and actions matter most. Bottom line, reciprocity could simplify life for millions of carriers. But until it's signed into law, the old rules still apply. And even if it passes, the responsibility to know where you can and can't carry never goes away. The smart move is staying educated, staying prepared, and staying professional every time you step out the door. Now let's zoom out and look at where this thing actually stands. House Resolution 38 didn't just pop out of thin air. Representative Richard Hudson from North Carolina dropped it back in January 2025, and it already cleared the House Judiciary Committee on an 18-9 vote. That breakdown tells you everything you need to know. Republicans lined up behind it, Democrats pushed back hard. At this moment, over 180 Republicans have their names on the bill. That's a strong signal of momentum, at least inside the House. And given the current political climate, the House should be the easier hurdle. The real challenge is waiting on the other side of Capitol Hill. We've seen this movie before. In 2017, a similar reciprocity bill breezed through the House only to stall out in the Senate. The votes weren't there, the pressure mounted, and it died on the floor. That's the shadow hanging over this version, too. The Senate is where the gloves come off, where party lines harden, and where one or two defectors can sink the whole ship. Even if it squeaks through, the fight doesn't end there. You can bet lawsuits will hit the second the ink dries. Democrats and gun control advocates are already framing it as federal overreach. Their argument is simple. Why should strict states like New York, California, or Illinois be forced to honor permits from places with much looser standards? To them, that's Washington stepping in and lowering the bar for everyone. On the other side, Republicans are leaning hard on the driver's license analogy. If you can trust someone to drive coast to coast, you can trust them to carry a firearm the same way. That sets up a constitutional clash. The Second Amendment and nationwide consistency versus the 10th Amendment and state sovereignty. It's not just a political fight, it's a legal one. And the courts will almost certainly have the final word. Groups like the NRA and the National Shooting Sports Foundation are throwing their weight behind it, while organizations like Everytown for Gun Safety and the International Association of Chiefs of Police are lining up against it. For everyday carriers, that means buckle up. This isn't going to be quick. Even if the House and Senate both pass it, expect injunctions, court battles, and endless debates on the news. In other words, the headlines saying Trump backs nationwide reciprocity sound big, but the grind to actually make it reality is only getting started. So after all the noise in D.C., what does this actually mean for those of us who carry every day? Let's cut through the politics and look at it from a shooter's perspective. If nationwide reciprocity lands, it's going to feel like a weight lifted off the backs of more than 21 million permit holders. No more memorizing reciprocity maps. No more second-guessing every time you cross a state line. It would bring a level of consistency to concealed carry that we've never had before, making travel simpler and safer for law-abiding citizens. For the trucker hauling across 6 states, for the family on a cross-country road trip, for the business traveler flying in and out of strict states, this would be a genuine game-changer. The data backs it up, too. States like Texas and Florida have tracked permit holders for years, and the numbers are clear. People with concealed carry permits are some of the most law-abiding citizens in the country. Revocations are rare, and crimes committed by permit holders are even rarer. That's why so many see reciprocity as just common sense. If one state trusts you to carry, why shouldn't the rest? But let's not sugarcoat it. There are challenges. Strict states argue they're being forced to lower their standards. A person barred from a permit in California could potentially carry there if they hold a valid permit from another state with looser requirements. That's where opponents dig in. They'll waive studies from groups like RAND and Everytown, claiming more permissive carry laws mean more homicides and assaults. Whether you buy those studies or not, that's the evidence critics will hammer in court and in the media. From my seat, the biggest takeaway is this. Reciprocity doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't suddenly hand firearms to people who shouldn't have them. It recognizes the rights of responsible citizens who already jumped through every hoop their state demanded. It doesn't erase background checks or sidestep training requirements. It simply makes your permit travel with you, the same way your driver's license does. For carriers, that means less anxiety and fewer traps when you're on the road. For opponents, it means fighting tooth and nail to keep their state lines as barriers. And for law enforcement, it means new challenges verifying permits that look different from state to state. This debate is far from over, but make no mistake. If reciprocity becomes law, it would mark one of the most significant shifts in carry rights we've seen in decades. At the end of the day, it comes down to a simple question. Does the Second Amendment stop at the state border, or does it follow you everywhere you go? So, here's where we're at. The idea of one permit covering all 50 states has gun owners fired up and politicians digging in. Supporters see it as common sense, the next logical step for the Second Amendment. Opponents warn it forces strict states to bend and creates headaches for law enforcement. Either way, the fight isn't cooling down anytime soon. It's headed for the Senate, and even if it passes there, expect court battles that could drag on for years. For everyday folks who carry, the dream is simple. No more patchwork, no more guessing, no more fear of crossing the wrong border. Just one set of rules that travel with you wherever you go. Whether that vision becomes reality is still up in the air, but one thing's certain. The debate over reciprocity is about to shape the future of concealed carry in America. Make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Stay sharp.